When did your Porsche passion happen? When did you transition?
I was a little bit ahead of the game, I think, compared to some of the other guys. And I'm not bragging about that. I always try to think back to maybe what the influence was. And I think it was when Mark Arsenal brought that first RWB car over.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to speak negatively of the RWB cars. That's not really it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But when I saw that car, and they said it was an 80 whatever it was. I don't remember. I can't remember what year it was or anything. But I'm like, God, that's really cool. And I like Mark Arsenal, like his style. He's a great guy, and he just kind of gets it. And that what we were talking about earlier, like that one was boosted. It was turbo. Like,
yes.
It was done right.
It was the business.
Yeah, it was a really nice car. And then I kind of started messing around a little bit on Pelican parts and looking around, and I was thinking like, God, I had a Type R at the time,
Mm-hmm.
an Integra Type R, so a 90 or no, it was an 01.
Okay.
And I'd had it for like 5 years, and I kind of felt like I wanted to do something different, just step out of my comfort zone. At that point, I'd only had Hondas or like a truck, and I wanted to do something different, and I couldn't put my finger on what I wanted, and then kind of started looking at the Porsche stuff a little bit more, and it really reminded me of the Honda stuff like we just talked about. And so I said, I'm going to do it. So I started looking around on Craigslist, and I was finding coupes, like 82, 83, 84 coupes for like $13,000.
Yeah.
And
so you were way ahead of the game. You were
had 200,000 miles on them, and I just couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Like it just seemed like too much. And I liked the 964s, and they were 18, and I couldn't wrap my head around that. That seemed too much.
You're like, that's a lot for that car.
Yeah,
Why
the 930s were like upper 20s.
Yeah.
And so I found...
You hear that? 930s, upper 20s. And it's just ridiculous. Like six-figure cars now.
I found a wide body 82 Targa, like out in the desert. And it had 220,000 miles on it. It ran fine. It was a metal wide body done pretty well.
Okay.
It was a Targa. The interior was kind of thrashed. And, I figured, I'm like, well, I can go through the interior. That's not that big of a deal. It ran. All the hard stuff was done, and it was $7,000. And I go, well, that's the one.
Yeah.
The body was in good shape. We just did it.
You're like, I can play with this.
Yeah, I can play with this. This is like the perfect canvas for me. It's my learner car.
$7,000, guys. You hear that? You can't even buy parts for like $7,000 now.
So I got it home, and just went through the motor and fixed all the vacuum leaks and whatnot, and it ran actually really well. I had CCW build wheels for it, since it had the wide body already. I think I went like 18 by 8 or 18 by 10 in the wheels. It was polished lip gold, real 80s throwback, because it kind of had those flares I was telling you about. I don't know what to call them.
Yeah,
like they're the slant nose flares in the back.
Yeah.
Real 80s kind of look.
Yeah, the deal. Slash flares.
Yeah, exactly. I had that, and then I went through the interior. Deleted the rear seats. Did the RS door panels, put Recaros in it. Like it was actually a really nice car. When it was done.
It sounds nice.
Then I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that it was a Targa.
Yeah.
I was so enamored with the price of $7,000. I'm like, this is my learner car. And, I had it for, I think, through maybe 2 years. And I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that it was a Targa.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a convertible guy. I'm not really even a sunroof guy.
Yeah. You were like, all right, onto a coupe.
Yeah. But then the market had changed.
Yeah.
It had started to creep up. And I'm like, well, I can get pretty decent money for this, and I could always come back to another Porsche when the market drops.
Yeah,
like it was ever going to drop. Yeah. So then I sold it and I bought an Impala.
Nice. Okay.
So I did a '64 Impala. And I had that for like 5 years, and that was absolutely amazing.
Did you slam it?
Yeah, I lowered it.
Yeah.
We built coilovers for it. It was kind of like a Cholo look. Lowered,
okay.
White walls.
Nice.
Real clean. Silver exterior, black interior.
Kind
of a throwback look.
Cool.
That was kind of the car that everybody loved. Like the cops liked it.
Yeah.
The kids liked it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the conversation car. Wherever you would park it, somebody would come out and want to talk.
The non-offensive car. Yeah.
Prom in '68. It was just constant. But it was a really fun car to have.
It reminds me of almost kind of like a VW, right? Like no one's pissed at it. Like you see a VW bus, everybody has a story. Everybody's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun car. And then I just kind of like... I realized that the Porsche prices weren't going to drop, and I'm like, well, I want to get back into a Porsche. I want to like really, really do one now, And then I put the Impala up for sale and just started looking.
Yeah, you've owned several Porsches though over the time, haven't you?
Yeah. So I'm on my third. So
yeah.
Four.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a 997S for a little while.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then moved on from that.
I remember seeing pictures of that car. Yeah. How's your wife feel about him?
She likes them. So she's was never really in. She didn't like the Impala.
Yeah.
Because she thought we looked like cholos. So she literally wouldn't drive. She wouldn't drive.
She's
the
like,
Impala.
we're fronting. Like this is not us.
My daughters didn't like it. My son liked it. But yeah, she literally wouldn't drive in the Impala because we looked like cholos. She likes the Porsches because we can. It's kind of like the car that we can do stuff in together.
Yeah.
We can shoot down to the beach together, and we can go up PCH, and we can go to Shake Shack and just get a milkshake and just watch the sunset and come home, or we can take a wine tasting. It just it does everything.
Yeah,
it really
suits all needs.
Yeah, it does everything, and so she likes it.
Yeah.
She likes that I like it, and
That's cool.
She likes the fact that you don't drive it off the lot and it loses 50% of its value. It's
that's a big plus.
Yeah, if you buy right, it's kind of like money in the bank that you get to play with.
I think that's the only thing my wife really likes about Porsche. She realizes that, okay, at a bare minimum, you can drive it as long as you buy right. Like you said, you can get out of it for what you paid for it at a minimum.
Yeah, and she knows what the alternative is. I mean, I picked her up at 20 years old in a lowered Civic with a roll cage and nitrous. So she's seen it. She's had nothing but this for like 20 years.
So it's a massive cushion upgrade because she was riding in a death box when you picked her up,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, we went from that. Then we went into an Integra with a roll bar. Then we went into an S2000 with a roll bar.
That's where you're like, babe, watch my nitrous line.
Exactly. So yeah, this is a big upgrade.
Yeah,
and I'm actually in like adult cars now.
Yeah. She's like, oh, you've matured. Like, she's like, you like wine and Porsches now? Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, who is this guy?
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, actually, I took a picture of myself in Florida sitting at that winery in a neighborhood that was a 600 square foot house and with like a glass of wine and like some cheese. And I just put, who am I? When did I become this guy?
I've changed.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
So let's get into the Porsches that you do have. I want to save the very special car to talk about last because there's a lot of details that I want to go over with that car. So let's talk about the GT3, the 997 GT3. What kind of made you decide to get that 997 GT3? Like, what kind of led you to that car?
So it's kind of an interesting story. So I decided that I wanted to get a 997 and I just was going to get an S. And then Jared, he's kind of like he's the Porsche guy. Like if you need a set of wheels, if you need anything Porsche, he knows where everything.
Like in his garage, you could see like at any given time, there's like 8 sets of wheels in there.
Everything is buried, whether it's for sale or not. Yeah. And so I was talking to him and some other people. I said, hey, I'm going to get a 997. I want to get an S basically. That was my only deal. I preferred white and. Then like a week later, he messaged me. He's like, hey, I heard there's a red GT3 for sale. And I'm like, and?
Yeah.
I don't have 80 grand.
Why are you texting me?
Been telling me this? And he's like, well, it needs a clutch. It needs some work. Maybe you can talk him down a little bit. All right, cool. Well, it's worth looking at. It's a red 997 GT3.
Yeah. Money's not spent. You just go look at it.
Yeah, I'll just go look at it. It's not a big deal. So the whole thing was weird. And the guy who actually owned it, who's kind of a friend now, was in China. And so there was a local guy who was brokering it.
Okay.
And so he sent me some pictures of it, but they just didn't have any information on the car. Like they didn't have a DME report. It had some paint work done to it. It wasn't a purist car, or it's not a
collector.
A good example of one of those deals. But they just couldn't get me a lot of information on it. So I'm like, well, it's like obviously they're
scam or sketchy.
Yeah, something's not right here.
I'm not going to talk them down 20 grand, because it needs a clutch. Like this is just kind of a waste of time, and it was too far away to go see. And so ultimately, I just I didn't lose any sleep over it. So I found my white 997S. And it was already lowered. It had wheels on it. I didn't want any of that stuff, so I gave it back to the owner. But it was an 06 with, I think I bought it with 19,000 miles.
Oh,
wow. It was cherry. Like it already had a ducktail on it. It had a roll bar in it. Like the previous guy's name's Abbott. Real nice guy. He did a really good job with the car. He just did some things to it that I don't like.
Yeah.
In terms of like his wheel choice was different than my wheel choice. He had a coilover on it that I wouldn't run him. I would obviously want to put Eibach stuff on it. So I got it. And then I forget how it happened, but I remembered that the GT3 again, like 2 months after I had this 997. And then by that time I had found out who the owner was in China. So I went back and forth with him just about the car, just shooting the shit. And then I found out, he bought it from a guy who flipped it, to him. And I ended up knowing the guy who flipped it to him. So talked to him a little bit about it. And then I went back to the guy in China and said, hey, hey, Alex, where's the car at? And it was a mile from my house. In somebody's garage.
Really?
Yeah, it was a mile from my house. It hadn't been registered since he bought it because he's been in China. So it hadn't been registered for 2 years. So I opened up the garage and it was filthy. Like, it was filthy. Like, I just couldn't believe it.
Just sitting.
Like, it was just sitting, just covered in dirt. Like, it looked like it came from the desert.
Wow.
Like, God, this thing is rough, man.
Yeah.
Like, it is rough. And
not the normal way that you normally see a GT3, right?
Yeah, so I just, I looked at it. I'm like, it's cool. And the battery was dead, so I couldn't drive it. So I went home, digested it all. I talked to him, asked him what he wanted for it. And we kind of went back and forth. I'm like, well, I should at least drive it, just for the heck of it. It's a mile away.
Yeah.
It's not, at bare minimum, I get to drive it.
Exactly.
I've never driven
I'm not going to lose anything for this.
Yeah, so I drive over, and we get it fired up. And by that time, the guys washed it at least. And, it's still pretty rough.
Yeah.
It needs a paint correction. And drove it, definitely needs a clutch.
Yeah.
Among other things. You just figure out 40,000 miles if it's been taken care of like this for the last 2, 3, 5 years, however long, like it's probably going to need a lot of work. But, I drove it and then I kind of slept on it, and then I was like, it's not for me. I don't have the money. It's not for me.
This is more than I want to bite off right now.
I'm plenty happy in what I have. There's just something weird about this. And then like a month later, I was driving down PCH and a red GT3 drove by me again. And I'm like, God dang it.
Someone's calling me.
Yeah. And I go, so I call him back and I go, hey, it's not registered or anything. And I go, do me a favor, let me drive it down to Newport. I'll take it to Sleepers. And let me at least run the DME report on it. 'Cause there was another rumor that it had a real shit DME report. Like it had like a stage 4 or 5 over rev on it.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's GT3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if it has that, then I can at least go to bed and I can.
I was going to say, at least it's over now.
It's over. Like, I was hoping the DME report was bad. So I drove it down to Sleepers. They ran the DME. It was fine. It was good.
Wow.
So at that point I went back.
You're like, huh.
We negotiated. And there was a local guy, my friend Nick, and he said, hey, if you ever sell your 997, I want it. So I called him
things
up.
were starting to line up, huh?
Like, hey, do you want this? And he's like, yeah, I want it. And so he bought it for basically what I bought it for.
Okay.
But I put some wheels on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But no big deal.
So not too much of a loss, but just.
And I got into the GT3. And
nice.
Yeah, it just like all the planets aligned.
Yeah.
And it was almost
like you said, you were kind of like, I think that's how it works though, because you kind of took a laid back approach to it, and you're just like, well, this is kind of working out.
The whole thing went on for like 7 or 8 months. I think I started looking in September. I heard about the GT3 in October. I bought my 997 in December, and then I think I only had it for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then I flipped it and went into the GT3. And the GT3 is it's everything.
Yeah.
It is just everything.
That's crazy that it was only a mile away, though.
Yeah, it's a trip because the first time that I was talking to the guy, it was 2 hours away or an hour and a half away.
So it just kept getting so it literally just kept getting closer to you.
It was moving closer to you, whether you wanted it or not.
And I love red cars. It was absolutely meant to be. So I couldn't be happier with it. I mean, I could drive it every day, anywhere, and I could be perfectly happy driving that car. I don't mind sitting in traffic.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it just does everything. It checks all the boxes.
Yeah,
it checks all the boxes.
So you got headers, exhaust, all the stuff done to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't, like we were talking earlier, I can't help messing with things. So nothing stays stock. So I've messed with the suspension a little bit. I've done headers, I've done exhaust, and switched it over to E85. And I think I'm cool. At just about the end right now. I've got. Might mess with the suspension just a little bit more. Suspension company, play with the rates and the coilovers. But cool. It's pretty dialed. I mean, I'm not going to make it any better than it is.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty badass out of the box, but then you put your flair on it. Yeah.
I'm just kind of fooling around now just to fool around.
Yeah.
I've done wheels and tires. I don't run stock wheels and tires.
Exactly.
So I've kind of put my spin on it, but I don't think anything else I do from now on is going to do it any justice.
Yeah.
I'm just tinkering to tinkering.
That sound, it's because you have one, so but I'm just saying, like, like that's such an addicting sound, isn't it? That it makes
so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like so race car.
Well, now that I've got E85 in it, I try to fire it up like every 2 or 3 days just to keep the gas running through it. So me and my son go out and play basketball in the front yard. I'll open up the garage and I'll fire it up and I'll let it run.
Yeah, just let it run.
You know, I'm 30 feet away and you just hear it. It's like, man, it just sounds so pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
it sounds
like
so mean. But on the flip side, you can drive that around and you don't get rolled, you know, for modified exhaust or anything. You know?
Well, it's because it is what it is, right? Yeah. Like people see that and they're like, okay, he's not out here hooning. Like that thing is just all business, and that's the way it sounds. Like he can't help that. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's not like he's running an open header on a, you know, a JDM car. Not to say bad, but I'm just saying it's like it's not that.
Yep.
So
what exhaust do you have on there?
So I've got Sleepers built a muffler delete for me. So it's got a center delete, and then I run the factory side mufflers with the headers.
Okay.
And it is loud. It's pretty loud right now.
Yeah.
But a good loud, like a very good.
No,
it just doesn't need to be any louder. Where I'm tempted to drop the side mufflers, or run like a long tube race header on it.
I can't believe it sounds that way with the side mufflers because it sounds like it doesn't have them.
No, it's loud.
Yeah,
it makes a bunch of noise. But like I said, it's a very good loud. But I think any louder than what it is, it would just be too much.
Yeah,
where you would going 75 down the freeway with my wife in the car.
You weren't like like you see the guys on the off road things where they got the headsets on. That's going to be you and your wife. Like,
what's going on?
She wouldn't dig it. But I would probably dig it that loud. I don't really care.